Australian made and owned, hi-tec Oils is one of the largest oil blenders in Australia with a truly national profile, supplying an extensive range of oils, coolant, grease, batteries and much more for all businesses and consumer needs. Choose hi-tec Oils for peace of mind.
The nation's action track, Winton Motor Raceway, is the venue for round number 2 of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals, presented by Icon Lifting Equipment. I'm Lachlan Mansell. Gary O'Brien joining me to talk through all of the action from this round. And round number 1 at Wakefield Park was won by Fern, but some pretty determined drivers looking to hunt down Fern's points advantage.
Yeah, you can see weather slightly overcast, but staying fine at this stage as teams go through their final preparations leading up to this, the second round of the championship. Points at the moment, Fern leads away on 62. Then it's Shannon Smith in second, Marcus Pruitz in third, Brett Dalglish fourth, Anthony Tingali. Steve Zammit missed half the opening round. He's in sixth position at the moment. Barry Butwell and Frank Amoroso round out our top 8.
I had a really big bingle here last September, and it bent the back end of the truck about a foot across, so she's been stripped down to 2 bare chassis rails, and we spent over 800 hours actually building her all again, and this is his first time out, so we're still doing a bit of fine tuning on it actually. I'm liking the way the truck is, and it's getting better. I've had to change my driving style a little bit too, which is pretty hard to teach old dogs new tricks, so we're getting there.
Around Winton, my truck will get up to about 143, 145 by the end of the braking zone at the end of the straight. Wakefield, mine will just get up to about 159, just under the speed limit. It's one of the slower, bigger trucks, but it's fairly nimble in the tight parts of the track. If I'm on song, I'll make up a little bit of ground on some of the faster trucks in the tight part of the track.
It's pretty hectic at the first corner. We sort of hit the first corner at about 120. There's about 8-9 trucks all want to go around the corner at the same time, so it's a bit of dodge work and a bit of weaving, trying to find a place to get ahead. There's no real strategy on this track. It's just drive it and hang on to it. It's a pretty tight track for the big trucks. The little trucks do better here. So yeah, we struggle to get the big ones around.
Oh, it's always good fun here. It's a real good track to race on. It's tight, but it keeps you busy. It gives you something to do. There's not one of these guys when they get out there holds back. There is no friends out there. They're all enemies.
We're in the light trucks. We just converted from a Cat, went back to an Isuzu motor. So yeah, we've got a few little issues to sort out. Not up there with the pace, but we're having fun. I'm lucky. I'm only half the size of these lads. It's not too bad. It's good fun.
We're trying to win another series this year, and we've just got to see how we go. We're on the back foot to start it off, so the other boys have got a bit of a jump start. I wasn't at the last race meeting on the Sunday. I was on a family holiday, so it was a bit of a date clash, but that's okay. We've got a big task ahead of us, and I know this truck can carry me there, so we're looking forward to a pretty successful year.
Getting set for race number 2 of the weekend here at Winton for the Australian Super Truck Nationals round 2. Grid positions for this race, they'll line up how they finished in race number 1. So Steven Zammit will start on pole. The big news, Fern, the points leader coming into the weekend, not able to start race number 1 after a piston failure in his Volvo. He'll come from the back of the field.
Should be interested in watching him come through and try and protect that championship lead.
Have some onboard cameras on board some of our trucks, including Barry Butwell on board his Max Superliner, the big 11 litre diesel engine under the bonnet of that truck. Barry Butwell looking for a good weekend here at Winton. Had a pretty tough round in the season opener at Wakefield Park. Needs a good solid bundle of points to keep himself in title contention.
Yeah, rolling start for these guys. Steve Zammit on pole. Of course, Steve missed half the last meeting, the first round of the Nationals, by not being there, and Brett Dalglish had to take over the truck. So it's good to see him back and just about where he normally is on the front row of the grid.
Good to have an onboard camera as well, riding with Frank Amoroso, who's been racing in super trucks for more than 3 decades, can you believe? Champion from back in 2014. Done a lot of work to his Kenworth, and great to see him back here at Winton this weekend.
There's our grid on screen for you. Steve Zammit off pole, Shannon Smith alongside. Then it's Barry Butwell and Margaret Pruitt's in the Team Max. Frank Amoroso, Lockie Fern, Anthony Tringali, Mark Schultz, the new boy on the block in the ex-Calder G truck. And alongside him, of course, is our non-starter from race 1.
Good to have a couple of the Isuzu light trucks in the field this weekend. You mentioned Mark Schultz, Lachlan Fern as well, but getting ourselves set for a start. 6 laps the distance here at Winton Motor Raceway. Double file rolling start, and it will be Steven Zammit who takes the advantage at turn 1. Barry Butwell muscling his way through on the inside of Shannon Smith. Move up into second position. We go on board with Anthony Tringali in the international. Bit of contact from both front and back. He got a bit of a nudge from behind and got into the back of Lachlan Fern as well, and that was Robbie Fern muscling his way through on the inside at turn 2.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a gesture too to say I wasn't real pleased with that one out of that corner, and it certainly cost him a bit. Butwell in a bit of a drama there as he sees his position slip away with Shannon Smith going down the inside behind Frank Amoroso, who also got through.
Butwell getting muscled down high and wide. A late opportunistic move for Frank Amoroso up at turn number 5. You don't need to write a very big invitation for Frank Amoroso to take the opportunity. He sent it down the inside, and Amoroso now up inside the top 3.
Yeah, look for a rejuvenated Frank Amoroso this year, late coming into the championship, but as a result of a total rebuild on that truck, he's knocked a bit of weight out of it, and you can see the performance has picked up.
He's the veteran of the category, Frank Amoroso, but still loves it as much as ever and gets very sideways coming out of the final corner. He'll lose a couple of positions as a result of that error. And in fact, he was actually quite slow there, lost a lot of momentum there and some dramas by the looks of it for Frank Amoroso in the number 96.
He's let them all go past, so that doesn't look promising. Unfortunately, to have dramas so early on in the return of this combination is not healthy.
So Amoroso, after making that great move on the opening lap, gets shuffled all the way to the back of the field. Zammit, your race leader. It's Shannon Smith in second, and then Barry Butwell in third position, just ahead of his teammate, the second of the Max Superliners for Marcus Brilwitz. And then we've got Lachlan Fern having a battle with his dad. That's Robbie Fern coming up behind him.
Yeah, teammates as well, of course, and they run the reverse numbers, 32 and this particular truck, 23, who gets shouldered out of the way there. I don't think that's very diplomatic, and there may be discussions about that in the pits after the race.
Robbie Fern not being given any room whatsoever by his son Lachlan Fern, and he now loses a couple of positions as well. Looks like Amoroso back up to speed there too. He managed to get ahead of Anthony Tringali. How cool is this drone shot as we see that Barry Butwell is closing in onto the back of Shannon Smith in what will be the contest for second and third position.
And you can see how far already that Zammit's got away as we see the Butwell truck go down the inside of Smith into the opening corner and takes that position away. So back up to second position after losing out early on.
Good move there from Barry Butwell. We know how strong the Max Superliner is under brakes, and Butwell using its braking potential to full advantage there as he went down on the inside of Shannon Smith. Very fast lap times being set by our race leader Steven Zammit. He's actually just set a new lap record at a 1 minute 14.4. Glimpses the margin from last year, and here's a replay of Robbie Fern up through the top end complex, getting shouldered out wide by his son Lachlan, and then losing spots to Frank Amoroso and Anthony Tringali.
And another angle we see from the other side, and gets back underway, unfortunately losing spots. Not that he really needed to do that, as his position is already in jeopardy of leading the series.
Let's enjoy the hi-tec oils onboard replay from Barry Butwell as well as he went down the inside of Shannon Smith. He moves to second position at turn 1, and it's on here because Frank Amoroso has caught up to Marcus Prilwitz and also overtaken Lachlan Fern. So Frank Amoroso, after the problem that he had earlier on in the race, coming back very strongly indeed.
Got a little bit of debris hanging off the side of that truck, obviously from some contact on the opening lap. And now trying to get back into position. Gets a tail out coming out of the second turn and then tries to go around the outside of Sweeper. That's a brave move. I don't know if he can be able to hang out there for too long.
Hard enough to do that move in a race car, let alone a huge super truck. He gave it a go though, Frank Amoroso, and you can see that Marcus Prilwitz is having to defend with all his might and a bit of nose-to-tail contact. Amoroso wants to muscle his way through. When Frank Amoroso is behind you in one of these super trucks, he's going to make sure you know all about it.
Yeah, and be happy as Larry afterwards as well. But what it's allowed is for Robbie Fern to move up onto the back of this group as well. So we've got a 4-truck dice going on here at the moment, and Marcus Prilwitz making it difficult for anyone to get past.
Marcus Prilwitz moving it to the inside of the circuit to try and have the preferred inside line for the next 3 corners of turns 8, 9 and 10. He's defending pretty vigorously, and Amoroso gives him a love tap coming through the second to last corner. He'll look to do the over and under, but Prilwitz will be awake to that. He'll move it straight to the inside of the track. Amoroso is going to look to the outside once again, and a lock up from the number 96. Just manages to get it pulled up in the run to turn 1.
He almost got the under trick done there out of turn 1, and out of turn 2 it looks like he has, but again he's on the wrong side of the road. There's contact between them, and Amoroso finally gets through.
I'll tell you what, Marcus Prilwitz did not give Amoroso an inch. They made contact on the way out of turn 2. Finally, Amoroso managed to get his nose just far enough in front, and he was able to grab the position as they headed into turn 3. Sweeper, and Prilwitz now finds himself defending from the father and son Fern combination.
Yeah, well, as we just seen there, Robbie Fern now with the job ahead to get past Prilwitz. In the meantime, here's Steve Zammit, and there's nothing but daylight behind him as he fends this, or pushes this Kenworth through the final set of corners and goes across the start-finish line onto his final lap.
To begin the final lap, and he has extended a margin of 7 seconds over the rest of the field. What has helped Steven Zammit is the fact that everybody else has been battling so ferociously for position. Barry Butwell holding on to second place at the moment, just ahead of Shannon Smith. And there we go, on board with Steven Zammit. He's got a comfortable lead, and he looks very, very comfortable behind the wheel of his multiple championship-winning Kenworth.
He looks like he's absolutely in cruise mode compared to what we've seen from out of the inside of some of the other trucks where they're really seesawing at the wheel. Steve Zammit's just doing it with ease.
Barry Butwell, we saw that good move that he made on Shannon Smith a few laps ago. Smith's going to make him work for this second place finish though. Still not much separating our second and third place runners. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Barry Butwell had a really tough season opener at Wakefield Park where he had all sorts of mechanical problems, including a jammed throttle in one of the races. Didn't get many points out of that weekend. Really needs some solid results here at Winton to keep himself in the title hunt. But what a performance it's been from Steven Zammit from start to finish. He's led all the way. A new lap record as well for the 6-time Australian Super Truck champion. It is Steven Zammit who takes out race number 2. Barry Butwell comes home in second position, just managing to hold out Shannon Smith on the run to the flag. As we see Steven Zammit cruising home, and Frank Amoroso, even despite that problem that he had earlier on in the race, managing to work his way back up to 4th position. And then it's Marcus Prilwitz just holding out the Ferns as they come through to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, there goes the younger of the Ferns across the line, and made it a bit difficult for his old man there for a little while. In the meantime, we're just getting some more on board as we see Mark Schultz. Looks like a brand new Isuzu coming across the line. It's the ex-Calder G SBR, and he's done a good job. He's not come home in last position. Anthony Tringali, who we've seen get shoved off earlier in the race, brings across the line here with the checkered flag in the background.
The International Transstar development continues. Confirmation of your race results though. Zammit your winner ahead of Butwell and Smith. Frank Amoroso ahead of Marcus Trilwitz, Robbie Fern, Lachlan Fern, Mark Schultz and Anthony Tringali rounding out your finishes in race number 2.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I got off to a really good start. And once I got around turn 2, I just put my head down, bum up, mate, and I was just had my mirrors full for a lap or two. Frank Amoroso had a bit of a dice at the back there and kept the boys at bay and gave me a bit of a gap, and I just just went for it, mate, and it all paid off. So yeah, really happy with it.
Yeah, it was good. We got off to a good start, and I don't know. Well, Frank and Shannon come back under me, and rather than contest them on that corner, I said I'll just wait and we'll get them back. And lucky enough, we did. Shannon kept the pressure on once I got him, and I had to keep driving hard just to stay in front of him. So yeah, it was good. Kept me busy.
Yeah, it was pretty full on there at the start line. Steven got away as predicted, and Barry and I and Frank were tossing up for the position in second. Yeah, it was. I got clipped in the back wheel there and wrecked the rim. I had 3 tyres. We were up on the back, so any right-hand corner I went round, I just couldn't get any traction or hold it. So that was my downfall.
No, unfortunately, I started from 5th, I think it was, and I got myself up to 2nd, and I was pretty comfortable and happy, actually. And when I come through the S's, I've gone to knock it into top gear, and the gear stick's actually been bent, and it's gone past the gate, so it actually went into neutral. And the noise that it made, I thought it had busted a gearbox drive for sure. And then when I actually realised that, hang on, it's still got drive, I took off again, and they hunted it down and got a few more, but if we had a couple more laps, I would have got a bit closer.
So Steven Zammit's dominated the opening 2 races of the weekend from pole position, but can he work his way through the field with the reverse grid races? We'll find out all about how he goes after the break.
Oh, they've come a long way. The trucks are pretty reliable now. They're virtually a race car on steroids, but in our early days we've been rebuilding motors twice over a weekend, melting pistons, and over designs of the years we've actually modified a lot of things and fixed them up, because our category is not something that you can actually go to a speed shop and buy something for a truck. Everything has to be manufactured. You've got to make it yourself. There is no speed shop to go and buy bits for a race truck. So it's a fair bit harder, and a fair bit of knowledge goes into it. And of course, that's learning. The day we stop learning is the day we're dead. So I'm one of the showmen out there more than anything. I did win the championship in 2014 after quite a few years, but I never really tried a lot. I was always content with what I could afford to do. So if I could run in the top 6, I was always content actually. But I did win the championship in 2014, which I was pretty wrapped with actually, but more so for my crew, because I've got blokes that are on my crew that were, they're 46 years of age now, and they started with me when they were 18, so.
I think a lot of it's come down to the mentors that I've had over the years. I started racing this truck when I was 17, and I had one of the category's best on my side. So Robbie Russell was right in my ear from a 17-year-old kid, and he's given me all the advice that you could ever really want to drive these things and to drive it fast. And once you get to drive it fast, then you can start getting the racecraft. And I've learned everything from them guys, from Robbie and Joe Scarcella and Nigel Vauban and all those guys who spent a lot of seat time in this truck, So there's no real secret. It's just, I think once it's in your blood, mate, you've got it or you don't, so.
Welcome back to round 2 of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals presented by Icon Lifting Equipment, getting ourselves set for race number 3. This race will feature a reverse grid starting order based on the finishing positions in race number 2. Always exciting, Gary O'Brien, these reverse grid races, watching the fast trucks having to charge their way up through the field.
It will be, when considering what we've got at the front of the field, and we know Tringali things quick in a straight line, maybe not so quick around the corners. So he may be the one who will dictate the pace in the early laps.
Good opportunity for some of those less experienced drivers or some newcomers into the category just to have the opportunity to get some exposure at the front of the field and get the experience of racing wheel to wheel with some more experienced racers as well. There are your grid positions. Tringali and Schultz on the front row. The Fern, father and son combination. Son ahead of father on row number 2. Then it's Prillwitz ahead of Amoroso, Shannon Smith. Barry Butwell out of 8th now. Race number 2 winner Steven Zammit will start at the rear of the field.
We've got a camera out the back of the Mark Shields Isuzu, and this will be really interesting for the debutant. The first time that'll be at the front of the grid.
And he'll have some very, very fast drivers and trucks ganging up behind him as well, so we should be able to see some spectacular images from that onboard camera. Set for a start. Once again, it's a 6-lapper at the nation's action track, the short configuration of the Winton circuit. Anthony Tringali leads them through turn number 1. Good start as well from Marcus Prillwitz, who grabs the spot down on the inside, and Lachlan Fern in the Isuzu immediately moving up into second. And I think he wants to get past Tringali as well. Morse code on the rear bumper of the International that leads this race.
And I wonder where that was coming from. Marcus Prillwitz is in 3rd position. But we've got Butwell off the track at the sweeper.
That's a big off too for the number 13 Max Superliner at very high speed. Goes flying off the racetrack. He'll fall right to the tail end of the field. He was trying to go around the outside of someone, I think, and we've got more shuffling for positions happening as well as Frank Amoroso moves up a spot, gets ahead of Lachlan Fern, and it's Marcus Prillwitz who finds himself in the race lead.
And I see Mark Schultz has moved straight to the back of the field, and that's probably a wise decision from the debutant, because he could have been well and truly caught up in a lot of this.
And on board with Anthony Tringali, who's just sidestepping some of those trucks that are using plenty of aggression and plenty of physical muscles to fight their way through to the front. So Tringali's decided just to tuck in behind, follow them around, watch their racing lines and see how it all plays out. But Amoroso already hungry for the lead. Look at the pressure that he's putting on Marcus Prillwitz. We saw a great battle between these two in the previous race. It's resumed in race number 3, but this time it's for first place.
And Shannon Smith trying to go down the inside as well of Amoroso. In the meantime, Zammit down the inside of Robbie Fern.
And Fern trying to go around the outside of his son Lachlan Fern. They will run side by side out of turn number 2. Robbie Fern's actually placed his truck pretty well, because he'll be on the inside when they get to the sweeper, and it's Robbie Fern who manages to capitalise and move up into 4th position.
In the meantime, we've just seen Amoroso slip back to 3rd position. He went a little bit wide at the sweeper, and that allowed Shannon Smith to get through. So they head around the back of the circuit now, and still Prillwitz leading the way, as you'd expect. He's a hard man to pass. We've seen that earlier. And at the moment, he's got Smith and Amoroso all over the back of him.
We've seen over the years that Frank Amoroso has been the king of defensive driving in the Super Truck Championship. This weekend so far, it's Prillwitz who's doing all of the defence. But here comes Shannon Smith, a great run out of turn number 7, pulls up alongside Prillwitz as they head into the final 3 corners. Amoroso back down the inside of Shannon Smith. So Smith got wrong-footed there. He was trying to go around the outside of Prillwitz, but all he succeeded in doing was opening up the door for Amoroso, who's going to try and go down the inside. I don't think there was space there. Marcus Prillwitz very robust in his defence. Covers off Amoroso, but Amoroso looking to do the switchback again, trying to go for a gap that doesn't exist, I don't think. Amoroso is just trying to make space where there isn't any. He'll go to the outside, heading up into turn number 3, the sweeper. Can he go the long way round of Marcus Prillwitz? Not quite. He drops wheels off the racetrack, and Smith's back in there fighting back through on the inside up into second.
Oh, and they touch again, and this time it's Smith who's come off second best, spun around and into the tyre barrier as well. Lucky there wasn't a race official there. There used to be years ago. Fortunately enough, if a truck hits concrete, the concrete moves, not the truck.
Good news for Shannon Smith is that he managed to wash off most of the speed before he made that impact with the tyre wall, so I think he's been able to get away without too much damage to his truck. But that was nuts racing between our race leaders. It was Amoroso trying to go around the outside of Prillwitz. Smith saw an opportunity, and it was then Amoroso who was up on the curb there, who just got carted into the side of Shannon Smith. And it was Smith who went spinning sideways into the tyre wall.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much concrete in that tyre barrier these days. There used to be, but either way, very lucky there to have washed off the pace, as you said, and just gave the tyres a little bit of a massage and gets back underway.
Let's face it too, these trucks are big, tough vehicles, and they can survive a little bit of contact and a few impacts without actually being terminally damaged. So Shannon Smith has been able to resume, albeit well down the order. But how intense was that combat for the race lead? still on as well.
Pruitt still leads the way now. We've got Zammit up into third's position behind Amoroso. Pruitt still leading the way. He's defied every attempt to get past. Can he keep it up for the remainder of this race?
And as a result, everybody else in the field is queuing up behind the number 31 Max Superliner. Amoroso's in there. Steven Zammit's worked his way up to third. Robbie Fern in the Volvo part of the battle as well. And you can see that Prilwitz is holding up the gang of trucks that are lining up behind. He's driving shallow lines. He's driving down the inside of every corner. The drivers behind are clearly quicker, but Prilwitz is just not giving them any opportunity to get past.
He's not doing anything wrong either, Lockie. He's just holding those positions and just guarding the inside line wherever possible. And we'll almost call him the John Bow of truck racing, couldn't we, after this? Bow renowned for being one of the hardest people in the world to get past. And here again, we can see Prilwitz takes the inside. Amoroso's going to go try the outside again. He's still not close enough. And the danger that you always leave yourself in, as we've seen previously, that you open the door on inside for whoever's following you that could get past.
Steven Zammit's there somewhere as well, I think just to the right of the shot, but he was trying to go down the inside as well. Amoroso again looking to the outside as they head up to turn number 1. Steven Zammit looking down the inside, no space there, and here comes Robbie Fern to the outside of Steven Zammit. This is all compressing up, and it won't be too much longer before Lachlan Fern and Barry Butwell join in this as well and make it a 6-truck battle for the lead of the race.
Yeah, and the thing is that Zammit can't take any moves that may be available because he might compromise his own position with the way the white truck behind him is zeroing in on him.
That's a great drone shot, isn't it? The great overhead pictures of the trucks as they negotiate their way through turn number 5. And you can see that Prilwitz, he's just positioning that number 31 Mac perfectly on the inside, runs it out to the outside on the exit of the corner, which then puts him on the inside for the next corner. I don't think that it's quite got the straight line performance of some of the other trucks. Remember as well that Marcus Prilwitz's truck has a 5-speed manual gearbox where a lot of the other trucks are automatic, but he is driving the race of his life at the moment as Zammit squeezes his way up the inside of Amoroso and moves through into second position.
Well, this is what we were talking about the previous lap, going down the outside, and there's contact between Amoroso and Zammit. Fortunately, Zammit's been able to hold onto it and hold position. Beautiful
Truck control there for Steven Zammit. He and Frank Amoroso know each other very well. They've battled it out for many years for races and championships, and a bit of a brush between the two of them, but Zammit was able to hold on to it. What that did though, that little skirmish just allowed Marcus Prilwitz to ease out a little bit of the margin. It won't last long though because Steven Zammit is coming, and coming fast. We are on the final lap.
Yeah, half a lap or so to go in this one. Zammit's done a good job to get through, well, hold on to where he is, but Prilwitz is the one that's been the star so far.
So it's all going to come down to this final lap to determine the finishing order. Prilwitz still holding on. He's got the 6-time champion behind, and they come together. Zammit trying to go around the outside. They make contact. Both of them spear off the track. Amoroso goes through. Robbie Fern goes through. So do Lachlan Fern and Barry Butwell. And both Steven Zammit and Marcus Prilwitz getting shuffled down the order on this final lap.
And Shannon Smith didn't figure all that well out of it as well, as he does get past Zammit on that long back straight down to the final set of corners. Looking out the back of Barry Butwell's Mac at the moment. In the meantime, here's our race leader, Frank Amoroso. What a comeback. Takes the win ahead of Robbie Fern in second spot. Lachlan Fern will be third. But coming across the line, there's been contact between Butwell and Zammit. Zammit off the track there as he went under the starter finishes, Rossum.
And he's not happy about it either, Steven Zammit. That actually started a bit earlier on when Zammit was running with all 4 wheels in the grass, heading down the back straight, side by side with Barry Butwell. So there's a bit more to that story, I think, Gary.
Well, what an animation that we're seeing out of this truck at the moment. Steve Zammit not happy at all. Until we see some replays, we really can't understand what really happened there. Here we go now. We've got our first replay. There goes Amoroso across the line, followed by Fern, and then the younger Fern would be next. And there's the contact now. Zammit's off the track. He's on that hard line on the outside of the last corner, and as he tried to come back across, the Mac was there. So I don't know if he's got a lot to wager with if there's a protest or anything happens.
Here's what it looks like on board with Barry Butwell. So coming up to the start-finish line, boof, you can see a bit of contact there, and Barry Butwell immediately glancing out to the left-hand side just to try and work out exactly what happened and who it was that hit him. And here it is with Steven Zammit. So this is coming out of the last corner. Bang, you can see him making contact with the back of the Max Superliner as they ran down across the start-finish line. And at that point there, Steven Zammit starts asking, what was that all about?
Well, we go to results of race 3 at round 2. Frank Amoroso gets the win ahead of Robbie Fern, followed by son Lockie Fern, Barry Butwell, Steve Zammit, Shannon Smith in position 6, Marcus Brillwitz after leading for so long in 7, Anthony Tringali and Mark Childs.
Full of smiles and joy actually at the moment. It was a bit of a hard race actually. I had a bit of trouble getting past Marcus's there, and I'm not sure what happened with Shannon actually, because I thought I seen him come up the inside. I didn't know where he was going, and Lucky didn't whack that barrier really badly, so he got going again. But that was a hard fight to the very end, and I wasn't giving in, so it worked out good.
Yeah, and I got knocked out on the second corner. I got knocked back about 3 places, but yeah, got my way back up there again and just sat back and watched what was going on in front of me, and yeah, got a couple of openings there. Pretty lucky, couple of lucky openings, and got through and come second.
Well, actually, I think it was about 7, and then the last corner, a few of the blokes took each other out, so I slipped in, got my way to 3rd, held that at the end.
Well, there's no clean underwear. Look, it was a bit of a feisty race, and I sort of sat back and just kept nibbling away, and I got to the last lap, and there was one truck to go, so I know I can hold that outside line up there really well, and unfortunately I think he just understeered and just took me out wide and watched the whole field walk past, so it's a bit unfortunate, but you know, that's motor racing, and I'm good to go start from the back again for the next one, because we start from our qualifying position and he's up the front, so we'll just bring it on in the next one.
The action is heating up in the Super Trucks, both on the track and in the pits. We've got the final 10-lap feature race still to come here at Winton Motor Raceway. Who will take victory? We'll find out after the break. Time for the final race of the weekend here at Winton Motor Raceway for round number 2 of the 2019 Australian Super Truck Nationals, presented by Icon Lifting Equipment, and it's the 10-lap Super Prix, the feature race of the weekend, a full reverse grid based on lap times from qualifying. This race, if the last one's anything to go by, Gary O'Brien is going to bring us plenty of close racing, plenty of action, and plenty of overtaking as well.
Oh, indeed, and we've got the same front row pair this time as we had in the previous race, except they're reversed around. We've got Schultz on pole and Tringali alongside him, and as we've seen in the earlier race, both of them didn't want to get involved in any of the mess that happened later, and I wonder if they'll try for the same in this one.
Here are your grid positions. So Schutz and Tringali on the front row, Lachlan Fern and Marcus Brillwitz on row number 2. We know how good Marcus Brillwitz is at defending after what we saw from him in the previous race. Robbie Fern and Barry Butwell next, ahead of Shannon Smith and Frank Amoroso. And once again, our 6-time champion, Steven Zammit, will come through from the rear of the field.
And here we're looking out the back of Shannon Smith, and he's down the back, so he's only got Zammit behind him. He'll be determined to try and keep him that way for as long as he can.
Shannon Smith alongside Frank Amoroso. Great to see Frank Amoroso returning to the Super Truck Winners' Circle in race number 3. He'll try and do that once again, starting from down the order. 10 laps the distance for this race, the Super Prix here at Winton Motor Raceway. Good start from Anthony Tringali in the International. Mark Schutz running side by side with Marcus Brillwitz on the run down into turn 1 and 2, and already one off. That's Tringali. So after making such a good start, he's thrown it off the road at turn number 1 and given up the race lead straight away.
Robbie Fern having some massaging panels with Frank Amoroso, and now with Schultz on the inside, there's a good opportunity for Fern to go further ahead by going around the outside of Amoroso, and I think he's actually pulled it off.
And look at who's leading the race once again. It's the driver who led so many laps of the previous race, Marcus Primwitz, who's found himself out in front and contact up at turn 5. Frank Amoroso and Robbie Fern coming together. We go on board with Anthony Tringali, who has a bird's eye view of Robbie Fern rejoining the racetrack, slots back in behind the Volvo.
We know that Tringali has lots of pace in that truck, especially in a straight line. And I know they've been working on the handling to get this thing to turn and brake a lot better. And while he's still learning his craft, he's only into his second year, he can follow these fast guys around and pick up some tips.
And a lead change coming down the back straight as Barry Butwell moves ahead of his teammate Marcus Primwitz. So it's the number 13 Max Superliner that goes to the lead. Primwitz now in a position where he can play rear gunner for his teammate. Interesting after how hard Marcus Primwitz made it for the other drivers to get past that his teammate seems to get the job done a lot more easily.
I was going to say the same thing, Lockie, you beat me to it, as we see the two Bulldog Ambland Max out in front, and looks like they're doing it nicely at the moment.
So Butwell first, back to Primwitz. Lachlan Fern doing a good job there, up in position 3. Shannon Smith, the next one through, ahead of Steven Zammit and Frank Amoroso. And Lachlan Fern leaning into the side of Marcus Primwitz at turn 5, using the more nimble handling of the light truck to advantage and trying to maximise the corner speed to take the fight up to Primwitz.
Yeah, he gives away about 5 litres in a straight line, unfortunately, and the little Isuzus just don't have the engine capacity to hang with the bigger trucks. We've seen Amoroso get all out of shape out of the corner, and already Fern has allowed a couple of them to get past, including Zammit.
Yeah, there's a fairly graphic demonstration there, Gary, of the engine capacity deficit that you were talking about. You could say that Lachlan Fern, while the Isuzu is pretty good through the corners, it just doesn't have the straight line performance of some of the bigger trucks. Primwitz again on the defensive into turn 1, runs it down the inside of the road and makes it very hard for Shannon Smith and for Steven Zammit. So this might be a carbon copy of what we saw in the previous race. The difference on this occasion is that Butwell's got some clear track out in front to pull away. Here's a replay from the drone cam, and again you can see there both Shannon Smith and Steven Zammit just out accelerating Lachlan Fern on the run down into the final 3 corners.
Yeah, a lot of these performance advantage is through acceleration out of the corners. They're all pretty well at the top end of their allowable speed of 160 kilometres an hour. They're all about the same. It's just how quick they get there.
That's a good point too, Gary. All of the trucks do have a restricted top speed of 160 kilometres an hour, and that's imposed for safety reasons more than anything, because if they go much faster than that, you can imagine that it's pretty hard trying to get one of these big, heavy super trucks to stop in a real hurry.
Yeah, I doubt that any of them will reach 160 here on this short track at Winton. And we see Zammit try to go down the outside of Primwitz into the last set of corners, and again can't quite get it done. Frank Amoroso, we're looking out the front with him at that action that's going on, and then Primwitz gets slightly sideways out of the final corner, and this time Zammit makes it stick. Amoroso tries to follow him across and get through. And I guess Frank's seen the back of the number 31 truck for a fair bit of this weekend, hasn't he?
I think a few drivers have seen the back of the number 31 truck a fair bit this weekend. Amoroso, the next driver who will line up for a shot at Primwitz. We saw that he tried this in the previous race, the big outside move through the sweeper at turn number 5. The problem is that if you run out of road out there, it's difficult to stay under control, and that's exactly what happens to Amoroso as he gets muscled out high and wide by Marcus Primwitz.
Just found out how rough it is on the interior part of the circuit as he bounces his way back on track and rejoins the race.
And the interesting thing there is that Amoroso's actually come back on ahead of Primwitz, so despite the fact that he got muscled out through the grass, he gained a position out of it. Here's an onboard replay. You can see that Amoroso was on the outside. Where it gets interesting is where they get into the middle of the corner, because Primwitz was just starting to drift a bit wide. Amoroso gets onto the dirty stuff. There was actually a bit of contact between the two of them as well, and that's the reason why Frank Amoroso found himself farming out in the boondocks.
Yeah, and maybe able to get away with that move too, because for a little period there he was in front of the Mac.
Here's what it looks like from the driver behind, which was Lachlan Fern. You can see there in the middle of the corner, because Prillwith was trying to carry so much mid-corner speed, the Max Superliner started to drift wide on the exit, and Frank Amoroso basically had nowhere to go. On board with Steven Zammit, who currently runs in third position behind Barry Butwell and Shannon Smith.
Yeah, I wonder how he's going to treat it if he gets up there in a position to pass him across the start-finish line later in the race, bearing in mind how it happened before. But in the meantime, it's still Barry Butwell in front, Shannon Smith in second, who's been fairly quiet on our radar this weekend, at least until having that little bit of a hit with the tyre barrier earlier.
What he is doing, though, this weekend, Gary, is accumulating some very valuable championship points. And when you consider the problems that Robbie Fern had earlier in the weekend with not being able to start race 1, Shannon Smith's going to be pretty well positioned in the championship at the end of this weekend.
Yeah, oh so right in that assumption. As we see Lachlan Fern now, he's following Pruitt, so everyone's had a lot of time behind the number 31 Mac. And Lachlan Fern, you can see he loses out on the straight, but down into these twisty bits, he's right on the back of it and follows him through. So that could be a little bit frustrating for the relatively newcomer to the sport.
Back to the battle for the race lead. So Barry Butwell holding out Shannon Smith. I think Smith's probably a fraction quicker. When you look at their lap time, Smith is going a little bit more quickly than Butwell at the moment, but Butwell doing basically the same thing as what his teammate was doing, and defending very vigorously to make sure that Shannon Smith's got no opportunity to get through.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Zammit is closing in on the pair of them. As you can see, they're line astern of each other, going through the cleavage, the top end of the Winton Motor Raceway.
And the other thing here too, Gary, is that with the results from the previous races in the weekend, Steven Zammit, in his current position, is on target to win the round overall by virtue of the 2 race victories that he had in races 1 and 2.
Which, ironically, puts him back in contention after only partaking in 1 race at the opening round.
Yeah, he's managed to get a lot of points back this weekend, Steven Zammit. So too, it's been a pretty good weekend for Barry Butwell this weekend after all of the problems that he had in the opener at Wakefield Park. Challenge on for second position. Zammit looks left, looks right. In the end, decides that he needs to tuck back in behind Shannon Smith for the time being.
Yeah, I think they just do that to unsettle the guy in front by wondering where's he coming from. He's on one side of me 1 minute, he's on the other side of me the other minute, and he's even doing this going down into the sweeper, which is a bit unusual.
Very overcast conditions here at Winton Motor Raceway. Pretty crisp as well, as you can imagine, on a winter's weekend at Winton, but so far the precipitation has held off.
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to keep tyre temperature up by weaving a bit. Although you wouldn't have thought that would be an issue with a big heavy rig like one of these in getting tyre temp. Now looks around the outside of that corner, and now we come up into the tighter section. There's not much he can do here, just try and set himself up to get a run out of that last corner and onto the straight. And he looks as though he's relatively comfortable in P3 at the moment.
And looking very comfortable behind the wheel as well. Over the last couple of seasons, he's done a lot of fitness training, lost a lot of weight, really made sure that he's in peak physical condition, Steven Zammit, as we've got problems, unfortunately, for the Isuzu of Lachlan Fern. That's a shame for him because he was running in a pretty handy position at the time, but looks like a mechanical problem which has forced him off and into retirement.
Yeah, very competitive weekend for him too, like really taking it up to some of the bigger trucks, and can only see him going further into the sport, maybe picking up a big truck at some stage. He does drive his dad's into team events, which are generally held on a Saturday at each meeting.
We've seen this weekend that the outsides for turn number 3, the sweeper, is not where you want to be. Steven Zammit was having a think about it there as he looks to the outside of Shannon Smith, but in the end decided that it's probably not the best option. Tucks back in behind. Now he's looking to try and make something happen up through the top end complex. Turns 5, 6 and 7 on this shortened version of the Winton circuit, the original configuration of the Winton Motor Raceway circuit.
Yeah, what he's trying to do there is go get on the outside, even if he can't make the move happen, and try to be on the inside for the following corners. But Shannon Smith's been a wake up to it, and made sure that he's covered his line, even if you have to be a little bit slower through the corner, and then just cover your line each time out of the corner. Now Zammit tries to work his way up the inside, and you'll see that Smith has moved over at the braking area into turn 1, keeps that position just ahead of our defending champion.
Bit of contact between the two trucks. I've been really impressed with the driving from Shannon Smith this season. Bought this truck several seasons ago from John Bob Burley, who was a front runner in the Super Truck Championship for quite some time. But Shannon Smith, every season, he just keeps learning and improving. We've seen him in wheel-to-wheel combat with Steven Zammit on a number of occasions already over the last couple of seasons, and with positions as they are at the moment, he will lead Winton as the championship leader.
Yeah, bit of a sideways motion out of that corner, but again, holes out Zammit. Zammit did him a little bit of an acknowledgement that, and looks out at him. See, he looked out before he got to the corner to take the apex in, and knowing that he couldn't have the apex because there was already a truck there.
He has tried everything in this race to get past Shannon Smith. We've seen him look to the inside, we've seen him look to the outside, but Steven Zammit just has not been given any opportunities to get past, and now you can see in the body language of him behind the wheel that he's starting to get a bit frustrated. He was making a bit of contact with the rear of Shannon Smith's truck on the previous lap. He looks to the inside once again. We've only got one lap left, and look at the sparks starting to fly out of the brakes of the Steven Zammit truck as he really makes heavy contact with the back of Shannon Smith through turn 1.
We were saying how relaxed he is. He's not so relaxed now, really throwing all to the wind to try and get into second position. It'll only enhance his position in the overall point score. Again, looks to the outside at the sweeper briefly, then flicks over to the inside as they go down to the next corner, and now we'll try a run around the outside. Again, trying to set himself up so he's got the inside running at the next corner, and has he managed to do it this time? Unfortunately, he'll have Smith on the outside, he'll have the inside running the next corner. Are you confused now?
And they'll go side by side on the run up to turn number 7, and it's Shannon Smith who muscles his way back down the inside. A great exchange between the two Kenworth drivers, but it's Zammit who gets relegated back to third position.
Been bumped around a little bit in the last couple of races, none so less than this, but in the meantime, here's Barry Butwell, who was part of that little contretemps in the previous race, coming through the final set of corners, goes up to the start-finish line. Zammit all over the shop, out of the last corner. Frustration, I guess, coming into it, and takes up position 3 behind Shannon Smith.
He had a red-hot go, quite literally in the case of the brakes, which were glowing red on the final lap there, Steven Zammit, but in the end has to settle for third position. That will still be enough for him to win the round overall. Here is a replay of what happened up through the top-end complex on the very final lap. They went side by side through turns 6 and 7. We saw that Zammit actually got ahead exiting turn number 6, but Shannon Smith gave him a bit of a bump and run through turn number 7 and was able to fight back up the inside into second position.
Another replay. This is from the back of, I assume, Steve Zammit's truck. It is, and he goes past Smith and boom. There you go.
What do we think? Fair bump play on?
Yeah, a bit undecided. That was pretty well get out of my road sort of bump, wasn't it?
And I think Zammit tried to do it back to him at the next corner, but wasn't quite close enough. Great performance, though, for Barry Butwell. He's resurrected his championship chances this weekend as well. Shannon Smith, good, solid bundle of points for him. As mentioned, he will walk away from this round as the points leader. Confirmation of your race results sees Butwell taking the win ahead of Smith and Zammit. Frank Amoroso in 4th, Marcus Trilwith through for 5th position ahead of Robbie Fern, Anthony Tringali, Mark Schultz in 8th, and Lachlan Fern, unfortunately, a retirement.
Yeah, it was good. We got off to a real good start. We got through the traffic nice and easy, and that allowed me just to cruise for a bit until Shannon got up behind me and started putting pressure. And then luckily Steve come along, got in the mix, and those two could fight it out, and I could just cruise home. It was good.
No, definitely not coming home wondering, mate. It was a really good, tough last race there. The boys had their game plans out there, mate, and it didn't quite pay off. It looks like the results are pending at the moment after a bit of an incident at the top of the track, so it looks like we might end up in second place. So that was a good points haul for the weekend, looking very healthy for the rest of the year. Oh look mate, I had him everywhere basically. It was just I thought I could go past him and pull over, and it's just, that's motor racing. He's got his tactics, but it gets to the point where sometimes you've got to start using your elbows, and that's what happened. I don't think some people like it, and I just got the worse off. So look, I'm pretty sure they'll sort it out up there, and it's just the way it is, mate. It's motor racing. I'm good for it. The truck's good after the weekend. It's got a bit of bruising, but it's all good, mate.
Let's have a look at the series points exiting the weekend, and you can see that Shannon Smith's opened up a 19-point lead over Robbie Fern at the top of the standings, with Marcus Primwitz in third. Steven Zammit and Barry Butwell, the big beneficiaries, they move up into fourth and fifth positions respectively, Gary.
Well, Steve Zammit's back in the fight now. He's only got a 26-point gap back to leading this series. Barry Butwell, great to see him back in the winner's circle as well.
Plenty of action, plenty of enthralling racing in the second round of the Australian Super Truck Nationals here at Winton. The series resumes back here at Winton Motor Raceway on the 14th and 15th of September. Make sure you don't miss it. On behalf of Gary O'Brien, I'm Lachlan Mansell. Hope you've enjoyed all of the Super Trucks action. See you next time. Bye for now.